Related to reading problems is the topic of this video lecture with an emphasis on neurological and cognitive factors and environmental factors. Brain research shows strong evidence of differences in brain functions between poor readers and good readers. Much of the brain development occurs after we're born. Therefore, teaching techniques can retrain the brain, especially when it happens early. I'm going to repeat that. Teaching techniques can retrain the brain, especially when it happens early. So this is showing an indication that early identification of students with reading difficulties is critical and important, especially on those basic indicators of literacy. Once they have been identified, either the student gets double doses, extra practice, or intervention. And hopefully, as they continue with the proper instruction and placed in the proper intervention, improvement can occur. Cognitive processing refers to those mental activities that an individual uses in learning. We are talking about the visual processing, auditory processing, memory abilities, and language-related abilities. All of these are used for good reading. Research has shown that poor readers display more differences in cognitive processing than good readers. Cognitive processing deficits inhibit the ways the student is able to process information. And therefore, if poor readers are unable to grasp onto the learning process, it's clearly evident between the good readers and the poor readers. Let's go on and talk about Pierre-Paul Broca with the thick sideburns. There's a reason why we're going to be talking about him, why I have this photograph of him. Paul Broca is best known for his research on Broca's area, a region of the frontal lobe of the brain that has been named after him. So if he has his frontal part of the brain named after him, he is very important. Broca's area is involved with articulated language. A little bit more about him. Broca's area is involved in several functions of the body, including speech production, facial neuron control, language processing. He has been referred to as brilliant neurologist, surgeon, and an anthropologist, a child prodigy, and a man well ahead of his time. I always like to give a little bit of background information when we're talking about specific areas relating to either the brain or reading. So now let's take a look at what we're referring to about Broca. This is the brain systems for reading. This brain imaging shows 3 areas that are involved in reading. 1, 2, 3. The better someone reads, the more active these areas become, especially this back part of the brain. Let's go ahead and talk about Broca for a second. Here is Broca's area. It is active when you vocalize words in your mind. So this is dealing with articulation and word analysis. The temporal part right here, or towards the back, this area decodes the sounds and letters, the sounds of letters and words, and is less active in people with dyslexia. This last part right here in the rearmost area of the brain contains the memory of whole words. So again, the better someone reads, the more active this back part becomes. So I want you to keep this in mind, these 3 major areas that are involved for good reading. But before we go on, I couldn't resist. So when we were talking about Broca and how he identified the frontal area where it controls facial neuron control, I found this image here and I thought, oh, how appropriate is this? It says, I cannot be held responsible for what my face does when you talk. And look at her face right here. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about this image right here. This is really interesting. The top row is a brain scan of a 7-year-old struggling before intervention. Remember we said the 3 main areas need to be active, especially the back, in order for good reading to take place. So this is the 7-year-old before intervention. The large areas of the right brain are lit up when he's trying to read, and you can see back here the left brain is very quiet, and this is the areas that we need for reading processes to be effective. However, after 2 months of intervention, appropriate reading instruction, we can see here that the left brain now is more active. It has taken over most of the work once the child is reading on grade level. So you can see a significant difference before and during after reading. Now I have some questions about this. First of all, I'm very excited of the improvement the student has made, and the images of the brain are so powerful that we can see that. Here is a 7-year-old who's had 2 months of intervention or reading instruction, appropriate reading instruction. But my question is, what was the intervention and what were the deficits of the student and how significantly below was the student in order to make such gains in 2 months? So these are just a couple of questions that pop up having seen this image. However, it is significant in knowing how the brain neurologically does show the differences between good readers and poor readers. We're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about the environmental factors that impact reading. The home environment. The child's experiences during the first 5 or 6 years have been shown to have powerful influences on a child's development. Many children today come from increasingly risk-filled home environments, and the areas that impact that are poverty, family instability, neighborhoods with abundant violence, alcohol addiction, prenatal care, hungry, homeless children, overburdened, undereducated parents that may lack time and skills. Homes that are unstable or are considered impoverished are less likely to become successful readers. The school environment. For poor readers, school experiences are often unhappy ones. Unskilled readers spend less time reading in school than did average students. Therefore, I just don't understand how is it that we can't put more of an emphasis to get our poor readers reading more. For example, right here, poor readers read only a third as many words as an average student. Of course, they're going to try their best to avoid reading because it's something they don't find pleasure in, but I'm wondering what is it that we as educators can put in place to help motivate them so we can increase their time to read at school. They're not practicing enough to improve their reading skills. Students with reading problems often have unsatisfactory relationships with adults in schools as well. Low academic achievers also have social difficulty. So it just impacts the whole day, whether they're in language arts, when they're with their peers, it does, or adults for that matter. So they're battling a lot. Oh, excuse me. I want to end this lecture with quotes from successful people who have overcome their learning disabilities. I always felt a bit alone and isolated from other people. I did a lot of pretending as a child. It was a way of coping with the fact that I didn't feel like I fit in. Keanu Reeves, actor, dyslexic. My mom and I used to go to Hollywood and look at all the rich people. I said that someday I was going to be somebody. I even practiced signing my autograph. Cher, entertainer, dyslexic. I firmly believe that deep in their soul, everyone has a champion that can overcome obstacles and do great things. Bruce Jenner, parentheses, Caitlyn Jenner, former Olympic gold medalist, dyslexic. He did not speak until the age of 3, and teachers labeled him mentally slow. Anyone who has ever made a mistake has never tried anything new. Albert Einstein, scientist. My learning disabilities pushed me to discover talents that I wasn't aware of having. It has also led me to develop products to help others who struggled through school as I did. Rain Geyer, inventor of Nerf balls and Twister, dyslexic. A few more. I used to love reading when I was little. Then it became difficult, and I didn't understand why. I thought, what a bummer. My passion all drained out of me. So when I found out I had dyslexia, it was like, oh, that's what it was. Joel Singer, dyslexic. My mother was the making of me. She was so true, so sure of me, and I felt I had someone to live for, someone I must not disappoint. Thomas Edison, inventor, struggled with math, did not read until 12 years old. Teachers told him he wasn't smart. Your brain is much better than you think. Just use it. Leonardo da Vinci, artist, scientist, inventor, trouble with spelling, had so many ideas and inventions he had trouble staying on track. Are you picturing your students right now with some of these attributes? Okay, one more. If you can dream it, you can do it. Walt Disney struggled with reading. So I guess my purpose with showing you these famous people with learning disability is that they overcame their challenges that they had, the obstacles that they had. So along the path, us teachers, you teachers, really do have the impact to make a difference in what I'm saying is in making sure that the programming is appropriate for your student and that they're identified early, but once they're identified is honing in and narrowing in that area of need, because our children do come with us with many factors that impact their reading ability, and then once they come through those doors, it is up to us to make sure that we pave the way for them to become successful.